Councilmember Redmond.
Here.
Councilmember Collins is absent. Councilmember Stearns.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Stackla.
Here.
Mayor Kluwer.
Here. All right, we have no special presentations, so we will move to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on something not on the agenda, please come on up. And please state your name and where you live, please. Thank you.
Thank you. You just don't need to have them stapled.
So my name is Nancy Jandro, and I have a shop at 210 East Castle, and we have been having issues with the people from Crave Restaurant parking all day long in the 2-hour parking in front of our business. 85% of my clientele and Debbie Castro, who we share the building, are seniors, and there are no disabled parking spots on that street. Across the street on the south side there's no restricted parking, but on the north side it's 2-hour parking. And there are 3 vehicles that I've listed here that constantly park all day long in the 2-hour parking area. We have off-street parking for our clients, but Crave Restaurant stacks firewood, and we've told them that it's unsafe and it's falling, and it actually did fall into our parking area, and they have only just restacked it without changing anything to make it safe. So we're not going to have any of our customers park in that spot when they are not having their firewood properly stacked. It creates too much of a liability for us and, of course, for our clients. We've written several times to everyone here. We have asked for help. The last time I called the police department, I was told it was under review, and I'm not sure exactly what that means, because it is part of the Mount Shasta Municipal Code that is designated as 2-hour parking on that side of the street. We get parking from Ace Hardware there, we get parking from Crave Restaurant there, and when they're taking up several parking spots, just last week one of my clients said, oh, there's no parking out in front. It hinders our businesses when they are parking there. And I'm just not sure why it would be under review when it is part of the municipal code. So we would appreciate your help in opening up parking spaces for our customers and also for their customers. We have people that park kind of perpendicular when they're pulling a trailer, and they park out in front of our businesses. You may drive by at 1 minute and there's a lot of open spaces. 5 minutes later, they may be all filled up. So again, we're just asking for your help in remedying this situation and just enforcing what the code says. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Nancy, the license plates that you've given, there's a couple of Oregon license plates. Do you have any idea who those vehicles belong to?
To Crave Restaurant employees, the owner and the employees of Crave Restaurant.
And how many days, weeks, months have they been parking there?
I've rented that space for 3 years, and at least one of them has been parking there for 3 years.
Is this basically on a daily basis?
Yes.
Have you asked them to stop parking there because of your customers?
I have not personally, because they're difficult people and they have, they have bullied us, and they get very, I don't know what you would call it, but we just can't communicate with them. prior to this year, one of the vehicles was parked behind in the alley on their property, and for some reason this year, they've moved it to being out on the street continuously.
Thank you.
Come on up.
Hi, I'm Debbie Castro, and I own Main Event Salon next to Nancy. And yes, we've been having all these problems, plus there's a few other issues. When the snow removal comes by, they can't get close to the sidewalk, which makes it bad for our little old ladies. I got one that has a walker and oxygen, and I mean, it's kind of scary for them. They can't walk really far. And also, it's in the way. And then there's no parking. And then it's just hard. So, and like I said, everything that Nancy said is true. Their wood pile fell down this year, and it came this close to my car. And I was parked way over to the side. And what can I say? It's just not fun, and it's not safe. And I have personally been there 11 or 12 years, and I have talked to him, and he just comes up and screams in my face. And he blocks the alley, and he's doing some other crazy stuff too that just is not safe. I mean, the emergency vehicles can't get through there if he's parked there. And he does have parking spaces up in the front, but when COVID happened, he went and used all those to put more picnic tables for his customers to eat there. And it's just not working out, you know, and you can't talk to them. They scream at you. He says he's going to do whatever he wants, and too bad. So if you can help us, I would appreciate it myself.
In the original report that you submitted, were you asking for help to reinforce the no parking, or are you wanting handicap spaces put in?
Mostly to reinforce
Okay.
parking if these spaces more available.
Gotcha.
If people were coming and going, it might help. But they're not. They're sitting there. And like she said, some people like to park their trailers down there. I personally had a fun weekend. I went to pull into the driveway, my driveway, and somebody was parked in there. And my truck is big. I'm not driving my car right now. It's broke. Anyway, so I had to park like this to get in there. And my husband was here, and I don't know who was over there. Right on the wall, it clearly has a sign that says, "You will be towed and cited." So the next thing I know, they hopped in my truck and moved it and got out and left me a nasty letter. So
Okay.
I don't know what all the answers are, but it would be nice if they weren't there all day long. And like I said, the snow removal, the snow plow has to go all the way down and around, and then me and her get to shovel way out there, and both of us have bad backs.
Chief, would you mind just checking in and seeing what the status of the in-review is and reaching out at some point?
The status is right now is we have two district courts that are in conflict with each other. We have a Sixth Circuit Court ruling out of the Taylor v. City of Saginaw that says that the simple act of marking tires is a violation of the Fourth Amendment under the search and seizure clause. So in order for us to mark the tires, we would have reasonable cause. They say the administrative exception does not apply. You have a two-thirds ruling out of the Ninth Circuit in Verdun versus City of San Diego, which says that it is not a violation of the Fourth Amendment and that the administrative exception does apply. However, that has gone to a writ of, maybe you can help me pronounce it,
Certiorari.
which was and an extension was requested in April, which was granted by Justice Keegan. So we don't have any settled law as to whether or not it is a violation of the Fourth Amendment or it is not a violation of the Fourth Amendment to mark the tires, which leaves us a couple of options. We can put in parking meters, or an officer would have to sit there and watch the car for 2 hours, which is unreasonable. If the vehicles are parked there overnight long-term, we can mark them as abandoned.
We are in the Ninth Circuit, so Ninth Circuit decisions control California.
I understand that they control California, but at the same time, we can still get sued because they're going to claim the Sixth Amendment, and until we get somebody that says that, is that really the way the city wants to go, where we can still be sued and they're going to claim the rights under the Sixth Amendment, which is what they did in the Ninth Circuit Court, and it hasn't gone before the full court.
The Fourth Amendment?
Fourth Amendment, I'm sorry, Fourth Amendment. Sorry, I was thinking Sixth Circuit. Yeah. So, my opinion is...
As long as we're complying with Ninth Circuit rulings, we are fine until and unless the Ninth Circuit is overruled.
So,
Without giving any legal advice.
my opinion, though, is that we are in a lawsuit-heavy world. If the city's direction is that we're going to go ahead, even though there's conflicting, and I understand that we're under the Ninth Circuit. I get that. I know that for a fact. My opinion and my professional opinion, my experience is that we will face lawsuits for putting marks on tires, and that we will have to pay those costs. That is the thing. So my opinion is we wait till the Ninth Circuit, it's settled. If the writ is denied, then we have settled case law, and there's no problems. If it is granted, then we'll have a Supreme Court ruling, which will give us that.
Excuse me, what if we were to create 2 handicap spaces where 2 of these vehicles are parked?
Yeah, that's under the, I don't know what you would have to do for that, because that would have to be the roads and survey, but yeah,
Chief, let me ask another question.
yep.
2 of these 3 vehicles that are referenced on page 1 of the memo that we were given have Oregon license plates and apparently have been parking there for
As
3
long
years.
as I've
Isn't there a
been there.
requirement to get California license plates within a certain period of time?
There is,
Can that be enforced?
so it could, if we can, we catch the people with them. We don't have that in our parking citations. That is that would be a citation issued to the driver, and they would have to go to court for failing to register within 10 days for a vehicle that's based here in California. But it doesn't, we don't have it in a parking section where it would be written for a parking citation unless their registration is expired. So that's if we catch the person with the vehicle and we can show that they are here, then yeah, it's a citation. I don't have the code right off my head, but it's in the 4,000 section of the California Vehicle Code for failing to register within 10 days of a California-based vehicle.
You might have some willing aiders to be willing to call you when a driver is...
They can call us when there's
Approaching.
somebody with the vehicle, and we can contact them, that's sure, but that's not specifically in a parking regulation that we can enforce. It's
Understand.
just the parked vehicle.
Understand. Thank you.
Can we sign an affidavit saying they've been there for more than 2 hours?
No, not for the 2 hours, but if you want to, what I need to do is, are they moving them at night, or are they leaving them there?
They move them at night.
Move them at night. So,
Have you talked to them?
I've talked to, and I've talked to you, and we've explained, like, the wood pile is a civil issue because it was on your property. If they do any damage, they're civilly liable to you for that. And for right now, unless I am ordered to do something different, my opinion is that until we get a clarification on the 2-hour parking, we're not enforcing 2-hour parking.
So we can't sign an affidavit saying that we've seen the car there for more than 2 hours at a time.
Right.
So our word doesn't mean anything.
So, I appreciate the situation in. I understand. We can go tell them to move their cars again. However, until we can always get meters put in there, or I like the suggestion of let's get the public works engineer out there and see if we can get those handicap parking spaces put in there, and then that eliminates the problem, because then that's easy to enforce.
The problem that would create for us is a lot of our seniors don't have disabled parking tags, you know, they're just.
Yeah, I think outside of that, we would just
Oh,
ask for patience while it's being handled in the dual court system right now and go from there.
You don't know what process.
One other thing, you did say that every time you try to approach them about them, they're very difficult with you. You can always look into the civil restraining order process for harassment and that, and see if you've got a way where you can keep them so many feet from your business. But that would be through this,
Isn't there a big cost for doing that?
you would have to go through the courts to find that out. I don't know.
I think that
just-
costs like $500 to do.
There are fee waivers at the courts. You could see if you qualify for fee waivers, but there's options for you to do this civilly too as well.
All right, I will try that, thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your time and for the discussion, that helped a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else in the audience wish to come up and speak on public comment?
David Ream, Mount Shasta, California. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and in the hour of our death.
Thank you. Anyone online wish to speak?
Our first online speaker will be Michael Williams.
All right, Michael, begin when ready.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
I haven't had time to take a look at what the city's been doing with proposals for bicycle and vulnerable road user facilities, but I've seen a couple of things come across the agenda lately. I just wanted to urge the city to be clear about what their goals are for these facilities. And as an example to make clear about get clear on what I'm talking about is, if the city wishes to address crashes on Mount Shasta Boulevard, which is where most of our crashes occur, then a parking protected bike lane or any kind of protected bike lane facility isn't really going to do that. If you take a look at the crashes, they're probably going to reflect the same thing that all other cities see, which is that intersections are where your crashes occur. And there are different strategies that one can use to address safety at intersections, but some of the plans I've seen presented to the city council simply don't do that. Another example, if the city wishes to truly move forward in changing car trips to walking or bicycling or rolling trips, if they really want to address vehicle miles traveled, climate change, public health, and all the other great things that go along with changing those modes, then you want a network. A full network is where you get the real shift from car trips to active trips. And in addition to a network, what the research tells us is that you have to start removing some of the built-in incentives for driving. For example, parking, replacing free parking with paid parking, which might also address the issue that was raised earlier in public comment. So just want to urge the city, be clear on what your goals are, make sure the strategies you're using address those goals and have a good chance of meeting those goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone else? All right, we will close public comment, move on to council and staff comments. Todd, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Sorry. We have a date for the EIFD presentation with the county. That is August 8th, and we have Joe Dieguez from Cosmont Corporation joining us in person for that meeting to give a presentation. We are trying to work around what appears to be some inherent biases with the county within the presentation itself. So we'll see what happens. The next is a library RFP draft was written a couple of weeks ago. It has been with the LTAC and Friends of the Library, and I met with them this afternoon. We've got a hammered out version of the RFP. I just need to incorporate the desired changes, and I can get that posted sometime this week. So many of you have been copied on this, but bids have come in through the receivership process, the designated receiver for the nest, and the high bidder on this was Cliff Chang, and we made sure to let the Bay Area Receivership Group know that that's not an option. But it's interesting that I believe it was a cash offer. So when we are before the next hearing regarding the old hospital, and it comes to the potential for demolishing that property, an argument can't be made that there are no funds available because he's now disclosed that he has them. So that's a tell that will work in our favor. The sewer intersector project, the final inspection is on Wednesday. The wastewater treatment plant is probably about 2 weeks out. We're having an issue with the grit separator and a valve, and trying to figure out what the issues are. But we're pretty confident that in the next 2 weeks we can set up the final inspection. You may recall the vacation of half of Field Street to be donated by the city for the Danco Affordable Housing Project. We have the survey back for half the street, so we have a property description, and we have a list of folks that we need to notify before we can bring it back to council. We're going to start ticking off that list, and that'll be coming before council soon. And just a reminder that the ad hoc one-way Chestnut, Mount Shasta, and the daylighting of Castle Creek committee will meet for the first time this Wednesday. And that's the gist of what's going on.
Thank you. I've been hearing some citizens claim that they are seeing the old hospital being painted. Do you know anything about that?
The what?
The old hospital, one of the properties?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You know, the court, before they hear these things, there is a plan for each of these properties, and the court has said this needs to be torn down because of hazardous waste and contamination in the building, and the condition of the support structure, and anything short of that will not be viewed as progress. Asbestos and other contaminants in that building, a little paint isn't going to cover that over, and it's not going to fly.
I see. So that's not our doing.
It's just lipstick on a pig.
Gotcha. Any other staff comments?
Just that 4th of July came, it was very successful. We had 0 incidents during the parade, 0 incidents during the walk run itself. 21 years of doing this is probably the fewest upset drivers we ever dealt with. There was really not that many people behaved themselves. It was really a good crowd. And then other than just a couple of drunks dumping trash cans downtown, it was really uneventful as far as that went.
Awesome.
Want to thank Shasta Police Department and the Siskiyou County Sheriff's Department for providing us with additional law enforcement so that we could properly take care of the citizens.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, council?
Chief, just a question about the 2-hour parking on Castle from earlier. Does that apply to both sides of the street or just the side in question?
So according to the municipal code, it is the parking goes from Chestnut Street to Alder Alley. So it's both sides of the street, but it's just those, like, I think it's 6 spaces there. It is properly signed. Everything is just goes up to that alley. Once it's past the alley, it's no longer.
So it's both sides of the street that way? Because, just curious, because there's vehicles on the other. It's not. It's not the other side?
Just the one side?
Oh, it is just,
Yeah.
it is just the north side? Okay.
I can double check that. I didn't specifically look for the other side.
No, the other side is unrestricted. The other side, the south side of Alder, and that block is unrestricted. Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, we've got a solution to that little section parking wise, short of parking meters.
Comments? All right, moving on to committee updates. Anything to report?
Nothing to report. The DEAC canceled because of a lack of participants.
Okay.
Does DEAC have a full committee, 5 members?
They do.
They're short one. They're short one.
They're short
They have
one?
one vacancy.
Oh.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 7, consent agenda. The city manager recommends approval of the following consent agenda items. All resolutions and ordinances on this agenda or added hereto shall be introduced or adopted as applicable by title only, and the full reading thereof is hereby waived. A, approval of minutes, June 26, 2023, regular city council meeting. B, approval of disbursements, accounts payable, 6/5/23, 6/12/23, 6/21/23, 6/28/23, and 7/5/23. Total gross payroll and taxes for period ending 6/11/23 and 6/5/23. C, tax lien against properties that have delinquent utilities accounts per Muni Code 13.04.330. D, Police Department monthly report, and E, monthly investment report.
Second.
Yeah, consent agenda items A through E. C is CCR-23-19.
19.
I'll second that, and I was pleased to see that there's only 2 properties with tax liens delinquent payments.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. All right, agenda item number 8, determination of League of California Cities Annual Conference attendance and designation of voting delegates. Kathy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This is a 2-part item. The first part is the League of California Cities Annual Conference is taking place in Sacramento this September. Both Mayor Kluwer and Councilmember Stearns have expressed interest in attending. The cost of registration is $600 per person. Other costs will include hotel, travel, and meals. There's currently $2,000 in the city council budget, so if both attend, it might require just a small adjustment when we get to the budget item. If council desires to send both, we'll need to select a voting delegate and an alternate for the annual business meeting.
All right, any questions? Okay, we'll open this up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this item? And anyone online?
No.
Okay, back to council for discussion.
So, do you want to go for sure? All right, well then, immediately go to the question of who wants to be the primary delegate to vote.
I did it last year, so it's your turn. I'll be your,
I move that the Cities, League of California Cities meeting, annual meeting, and the alternate voting delegate will be Mayor Tessel.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Moving on to agenda item number 9, discussion possible action, upgrade the city website, social media, and archiving of public records. Todd?
Yes. At a number of city council meetings, we've talked about the desire for a newsletter, and a solution that was brought up at the last council meeting was, as opposed to a newsletter falling to one person at the city, that we redo all of our web pages and now have a social media presence, which then precipitates the need to archive that material for the appropriate amount of time to meet our requirements for record retention. And there was research done by staff about companies that help with web page creation and with managing your social media presence. There is Granicus and there is Civic Plus, and there seems to be one company that deals specifically with municipal archiving of social media. That's Archive Social. And so we got quotes. Granicus was considerably higher than Civic Plus and provided far fewer features. And Archive Social, will provide extensive training, and their services. Essentially, what it comes down to with Civic Plus and Archive Social, there is an upfront fee of $4,000 total, with an $8,973 annual fee. And so for the first year, it would be $12,973, and in following years, it will, unless the price is raised, will be $8,973 a year for us to have a social media presence with all departments adding information about upcoming projects, when they're going to be completed, information that's relevant to the public, and where we can, just good news stories about what's happening and what we're hearing out in the community. So it's a good kind of bulletin board to let folks know what's happening. And I think it's actually a better choice than an actual newsletter, and it's a relatively low price for admission.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay, we'll open up to public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Anyone online? We'll close public comment. Back to discussion or motion.
I agree with City Manager that the combination of Civic Plus and Archive Social sounds like a reasonable alternative, and provides some potential for increasing our connection with our constituents and our presence. So unless there is further discussion, I'll move that we approve going forward with Civic Plus and Archive Social to allow the city to produce an updated website, provide web hosting and archive services.
Second.
For the amount stated.
All approved?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Moving on to item 10, 2023-24 fiscal year budget approval. And I think Muriel's going to be joining us electronically here.
You hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. Before you, council, is the 23-24 budget. You have seen all of this information before. Wanted to get it back to you as it is now July 10th. This needed to be done before June 30th, so time is of the essence. I'm willing to take any questions anyone may have about this. Any changes that have happened since the last time we were doing this have not been included in this budget and will be amended through a budget amendment process. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions from council? No. All right, we will open up to public comment. Anyone from the audience wish to speak? Anyone online? Close public comment. Back to council.
I would like to make a proposed one amendment to the budget for 2023-2024, and that is a proposal to set aside $100,000 to $150,000 for activities related to the landing. Those activities may be related to the city going forward with an EIFD on its own or other matters preliminary to further movement. But I think it's important that we recognize the need to set aside some funding.
Muriel, would you mind, I know that you had a response to Councilmember Stearns' inquiry earlier in regards to what the funding, the grant funding for the brownfields can do. And
I did.
Yeah, would you mind?
I didn't,
Okay.
Sure. The brownfield grant that's been approved is going to be for the additional cleanup that will be done as well as for the removal of the rest of the hazardous piles that are already there. And in determining and working with the, I can't remember the name of the firm that did the EFDI or whatever study.
EIFD, Cosmo, yeah.
Yeah, to do that. I do know for a fact that there are going to be particular places on the landing site that will have deed restrictions as to what can be placed there. And until which time we know exactly what locations are going to have deed restrictions, we would be hampering anybody else's effort in determining moving forward with those properties.
Okay, so it would be your recommendation to wait until one piece of that has been completed? Is that correct?
Exactly. I think we're getting the horse before the cart. As I said in a couple of the answers that I had to Councilmember Stearns' questions, and to let the development happen as it will once we get through all of the brownfield grants that we have coming forward, actually probably this fall. We're hoping that's going to be the last one.
Okay.
For clarification, this money is not necessarily for development. That's going to come much later, much later. I did talk with city manager this afternoon after receiving Muriel's response, and I understand that there may be some good reason to set aside money at this time. Perhaps city manager can discuss that further.
So the one thing that I want to be ready to go with is if we do this pitch to the county and whether the county plays or not in a partnership, the way it works when a county or a city and county partner, it's up to the city to carry the cost of the formation of the district and the required due diligence. I don't have a total on that, but it's also, if the county turns us down, we're still, if we're going to move forward, we're going to need funds to undertake that process on our own. I just don't know how much that is. But it would be wise to set aside money. I just need to get a dollar figure from Cosmont.
And again, if we set aside some funds at this point, it doesn't mean that those funds are locked up. It does mean that they're available if and when they're needed, to the extent that they're needed. So that was,
So the designation wouldn't be specific to development and/or the EIFD. It would just be used as per our discretion in regards to the landing.
landing-related activities.
I'm gonna, I'd like to interrupt.
Go ahead, Miriam.
I'd like to know exactly where this set-aside fund, where the set-aside funds are coming from.
Well, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that Tim means from our current reserve and projected reserve for the coming fiscal year. But in the past, when we want to do a budget adjustment, because
Yeah, we can,
budget adjustment, we had firm numbers, so
and we don't have,
I can't do that now. Plan on doing it, not explicitly change this in the meeting.
yeah, no, I mean, it's, you know, until we have, I mean, if we're going to set money aside for the landing, you know, to work the logic forward, it's very unlikely that any development is going to happen on the landing until infrastructure is on the landing, and we've talked about this many times. To make that happen, the formation of the EIFD and the ability to reap the excess after frozen tax increment is what is going to help us make this happen. That's going to be down the road. The big thing is the cost of the formation of the district and the related due diligence to make us able to, you know, to form a district and designate it. You know, there'll be a general plan change. We need to, you know, show exactly what we're planning to do here and other stuff. So I don't have a dollar amount on it, so I can't say how much that's going to be, but really that's the only thing that we, you know, that I think we need, that I can foresee right now. And with absent a dollar figure, I think maybe that needs to come as a budget adjustment once we know what that is, and we have the landscapes a little clearer on the EIFD, and whether we're partnering or whether we're going it alone.
That would be my recommendation as well, yeah.
We might consider setting aside a small amount, $25,000 or $50,000 in that range, which probably is ballpark for setting up an EIFD.
Or it could be low. I have no.
Or it could be low, yeah, but at least we have something set aside.
Do we have a motion? Oh,
Are you making a motion to amend the current budget by adding a line item, Tim?
For
For the
landing-related activities such as EIFD. I don't want to limit it to just the EIFD in case something else comes up. But for landing-related expenditures,
Is Muriel still there? Is Muriel still?
Muriel, are you there?
I just want, I mean, she seems to be against it, so let's, when she's here.
Well, I think she's done a lot of work to balance this. So, and you know, she's recovering, and you know, I think logically.
Against this amendment.
Right, and so, you know, her logic, I don't want to speak for her, and I think it's sound, is don't do it now, wait until we actually know what the dollar amount is and what the landscape is.
Yeah, I hate it, but I think it's going to be a lot more than $25,000.
I do too. I do too.
yeah, it's my understanding that we can do an easy budget adjustment once we have firm dollar figures. And I think it is our council's intention to help improve the landing as those things come up. So to me, it's not a pressing issue to set aside money at this point.
All right, so this budget is not set up as a resolution, correct?
No, we would still need a motion and a.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm going to move to approve the 2023-24 city fiscal budget as presented in the agenda packet by the city financial.
Second.
All those approved? Aye. All opposed? All right, passes with 4-0 vote. And moving on to agenda item 11, appoint a council member to organize the transient occupancy tax, or TOT, increase support and to suggest candidates to write the pro and con arguments. Todd.
Yes, so we have a deadline of August 1st to have our argument for and a rebuttal in to the election clerk. I've reached out to a hotelier in the community, April and Josh LaFrance. You know, the idea of a 2% increase when you're looking at staying in Mount Shasta, they realize that's probably not the sticking point, but they're hesitant to sign on in that in off seasons that they're actually kind of surprising. Their direct competitor is Reading, and because there are more amenities down there in terms of food and other things, you know, a difference of dropping their rates by even $7, they can land that, but you know, they're a little concerned that if there's something on the horizon that may eat further into their profits, they're not quite sure they want to take up that mantle. I did leave a message with the chamber, and I got a call back right before the meeting, but didn't get a chance to talk to Kayla, but I'm going to talk to her tomorrow. And if you know, Councilperson Stearns gave me a list of names that may be good choices to approach, mostly for the pro argument. And what I'm hoping for is that we're able to appoint a council person with deep roots in the community that is willing to take up the mantle to, you know, to help organize a group or get the ball rolling, so we're not in a place where we haven't done our due diligence to ensure that we're in a good place to pass this one, but we also need to identify somebody to write the pro arguments and somebody to write the con. I mean, I can write the pro arguments. It's a little inappropriate, but I would prefer, especially the con argument, to come from somebody in the hospitality industry.
Well, the pro argument can also be written by council members and
one individual council member.
Only one?
Yeah, or you know, one member of the planning commission, any governmental body. You know, I talked to Melanie Findling about having the planning commission join in to make the argument for, and then we both got talking to it and realized this might not be a good idea. Talking to John Kenny, he said it can only be one member.
I think this might be a good task for the mayor and citizen of the year.
I was going to suggest you, Councilmember Stearns.
Well, you know, I think that anyone can ghostwrite it, but I think the signature, the name, might be the mayor.
Well, yeah, I think what we are here to determine is who's going to reach out to people, make sure we have the support, make sure the word gets out, and is a compelling arguer.
Especially since we don't have a paper.
Especially since we don't have a paper.
I went through something similar.
I'm going to be gone for 10 days, starting in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I went through a sales tax increase in Dunsmuir and no one picked up the mantle.
Yeah.
And therefore there was a loud crashing and burning sound come election day.
Yeah.
So by way of discussion, I suggested to our city manager that a citizens group, perhaps made up of folks like Dorian Aiello, John Harch, Russ Porterfield, trying to think, John Kennedy Sr., Mike Rodriguez,
Brett Waite.
Okay.
Might
Kayla.
be a citizens group.
I'm getting a little out of order. So any questions? And then we need to open up for public comment still. Okay, let's quickly open up for public comment if anyone wishes to speak on this item. Anyone online? Okay, we will close.
You guys hear me?
public- Oh,
Can you hear me?
yes. Go, yes, please state your name and where you live, please.
My name is Hitan Patel. I live in Mount Shasta, California, and I currently own the A1 Choice Inn Motel. Be quite honest, I'm kind of surprised there's no other motel owners here. So my question is, it looks like you guys are looking for someone to write the con arguments. If it were to be me, how would I get access to information regarding the TOT, taxes that we've gained in the last 5 years or so? Like who do I talk to about that? And I would also want to know, what are the cons of this? I mean, the proposal is pretty bare, I guess. It's just saying it's not limited to fire protection, law enforcement, emergency response, et cetera. Like, are we seeing a deficit somewhere? Like, why are we going into this where we need to raise the TOT? And I don't know what the council member's name was who spoke first, but I believe you said you spoke to a motel owner. And one of the big issue is, after summer's over, we're playing catch up. So like having a TOT tax raised by 2% from September all the way to April is not good for the motel business.
Yeah, thank you. If you send your contact information to either our city manager or Deputy City Clerk Joyce, I can reach out to you and fill you in on the appropriate next steps for the con argument and to fill you in on why we're putting this on the ballot.
And then who's the qualified voters? Is it all registered voters in Mount Shasta?
Yes.
So that's roughly, if you had a number, that's like 2,000, 3,000 people?
2,100 says Councilmember Redmond. I'm not sure about that, though.
2,100, okay. I don't know, from my perspective, it's almost a slanted crowd. If you're gonna put out a vote for 2,100 folks to say, hey, you're gonna raise the TOT tax for motels, that's gonna give back to the city, it's 2,100 versus 11 business owners. I just find that as a very unfair vote.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. But yes, please send your information to someone at the city and they'll forward it to me and we can chat some more.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else online wish to speak? Okay. We will close public comment, back to discussion. So I don't mind being the one to get the ball rolling if that suits everyone.
So, are you stepping up for the pro side?
Yes.
Pro argument? Okay. There's your con argument.
Yeah. Unless Tim wants to step in, but okay. Perfect. Do we need to make a motion on this? No? Okay. All right. Moving on to agenda item number 12, grant writing assistance for a U.S. DOT Safe Streets for All, S4A. Todd.
Yes. So what we're trying to do is get this federal grant that allows us to pinpoint, and our speaker before made some great points. We know that the big crash points are on Mount Shasta Boulevard. We know that they tend to be at intersections. What we want to identify is more specifically, what are the causes of these crashes? And what are the, is it a geometric fix? Is it a light fix? Is it something else? And the ability to pinpoint where these issues are and what the causes are will help us further refine our capital projects list to make these kinds of changes and further the active transportation plan. But one of the bigger reasons for applying for this grant, and I've applied for these, in various cities, is having a safety action plan in place is on a lot of grants is the price of entry for you even to apply or be considered for a grant. And so this makes us eligible for other types of funding if we get this in place.
Great. Any questions from council?
Yeah, so, Chief, you can help us, where are all these crashes happening? For intersections? Because I drive a lot and I don't see.
So just looking at the last months, because I haven't prepared anything beyond that, you had one down by the Piedmont, and then one of the intersections where it happens is right there where Berryville, Alder, where the boulevard comes around. That one's typically the U-turn versus the intersection. The Piedmont, the crashes that I've personally been on down there has been speed related, coming around the corner, people pulling out. So yeah, and then
All along Lake, that intersection.
The two-way stop.
so
Yeah, the intersection of
Chestnut.
Pine and Lake Street as well.
Pine and Lake, and then at the hospital. Surprisingly or not, we've had numerous accidents down in
I
front.
think it's a hard blind turn out of there with all the parking.
Typically without signal lights.
What's that?
These are areas without signal lights
Correct.
where people are
In some of them,
driving at their own discretion.
right, and I'm thinking of an area like Pine and Lake where the real issue is lack of sight lines and
That's a bad intersection.
it's a bad news. Those types of things where they're geometric fixes, that makes us eligible for roadway projects to,
This is a good plan. I'm just wondering where the problems
Yeah.
are, and it's not because. All right. So the reason I'm asking this is because we've had people, including some council members, who don't like signal lights. Period.
yep.
And they don't want them. I disagree with that. I drive all the time, and I see how they benefit safety.
Yeah.
So I want to know where the problem intersections are, and they're all intersections or just parts of the road where people make bad decisions. Not where the signal lights are.
And then what the specific fix is,
Try to fix them.
and even if it's signalization, even like a ped scramble, if the issue is getting peds across a particular intersection in time, and that could be mid-block crossings, it could be a lot of different things, but we identify that kind of stuff.
To the chair.
Yes.
Part of these crash problems, are any of them the Boulevard and Ream right there at the Gold Room, or the intersection of Old McLeod and the Boulevard that's in my neighborhood? And those are some really rough areas where people pull right out in front of you and you have to come to a screeching halt. I'm just wondering if that's part of this, if that's,
No, they're tough areas. There's poor visibility there, but it's more of where you got them coming off the freeway, the people haven't seen the 35, so you got the speed coming around the corner of the Piedmont. You can't see around the corner, so people coming off or making that turn onto Mountain View there, they don't see the people coming around the corner.
so it's mostly down there, not so much
Yeah,
McLeod
and-
and Old McLeod and Main Street?
And, yeah,
Okay.
and so we don't have a lot of accidents right there at Old McLeod. We do right there at,
Surprising.
Berryville. We have a lot there because you got the boulevard coming around, the two roads, and then, of course, even with all the signage and the double yellows, we got a lot of people that are doing that U-turn from Berryville right into traffic.
Berryville is a vortex of bad drivers.
And then the hospital zone, you get people that are stopping because they want to get into the hospital or coming out and getting a lot of rear ends accidents right there. But again, very few, if any, at our actual light controlled intersections.
Okay, thank you.
Tim, any questions? Okay. All right, we'll open up to public comment. Anyone online wish to speak? Okay. We will close public comment, back for discussion and motion.
I'm in support. You're the motion man. I'll second your motion, or John can second it.
Again, not in the form of resolution, Kathy?
Correct.
Okay. So I'll move to approve the retention of green dot transportation to complete a US DOT Safe Streets and Roads for All, parenthetically SS4A grant application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Agenda item 13, discussion possible action policy requiring monthly fiscal updates. Todd?
So at the June 26th meeting, we talked about in lieu of forming a finance committee that instead we would create a fiscal policy that says that at the first council meeting of each month, we will have, as part of the finance director's report, not only our actuals, but also raw TOT and TUT data, so we have an understanding of where we are in time.
Wonderful. Any questions?
To the chair. So we'll actually have actuals as part of this? This isn't just speculation once a month?
Actuals, which we do already, but also the raw numbers, so we have an idea of the stuff that isn't actually counted yet. You know,
Okay.
a
As long
pretty
as there's
good
actuals in there.
picture of
Yeah.
where we're going to end up.
We'll have like the TOT and the sales tax numbers that may not have been recorded in the accounting software, but we will be able to look at it a little retrospectively, but still some hard data, yes.
I'm familiar with TOT. What's TUT?
What's that?
What is TUT? TUT?
It's sales tax.
Okay, that's what you meant, sales tax?
Yep.
Okay. I was hoping, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, sales tax.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll open up for public comment. Anyone online wish to speak? And close for public comment, back for discussion. Or motion.
Okay, without further discussion, I'll move to approve the requirement that the finance director
We'll provide.
will provide up to, thank you, estimates regarding TOT and TUT, AKA sales tax numbers.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. And I almost passed over this because we never have an agenda item with outside meetings. Reports regarding outside meetings. Councilmember Stackfleth, take it away.
Oh, right. The Collier Interpretive Information Center north of Wairika has monthly meetings, and they made one in June. Happy to report that the center's management has made arrangements with the county to continue their monthly payments for grants that they get from the county. So I walked away from the meeting thinking that the management and other board members were feeling pretty good about the organization, and they will move forward and exist. They had outstanding visitor numbers for the first quarter and for the beginning of the second quarter, surprisingly good. Keep in mind that there are millions of people that stop at that location. They pull in there as a rest stop, millions. The actual number of people that go into the building is way low, down around 15,000 a year or something like that. That's partially because it's not open all the time, but it could, my impression being at these meetings for a few times is that it could be potentially very busy at the actual building if they could be open more. But staffing is tough to come by. They like volunteers preferably. Anyhow, it's a good little meeting. Next one will be in about 3 weeks. So there you go.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item 15, future agenda items and meetings appearing on the agenda within the next 60 to 90 days. A, approval of request for proposals for library services, 7/24/23. B, vacation of Field Street, to be determined. C, discussion and possible action, McLeod Avenue parking prohibition, to be determined. D, discussion and possible action regarding the Active Transportation Committee, to be determined. Future agenda items over 90 days, discussion and possible action review of Chapter 13.95 extraction and exportation of groundwater from the city of Mount Shasta. For item C, do we have a status update on that? Are we still waiting for Ken to do some preliminary work on that?
Ken's been working with Pace,
Okay.
and, we had the McLeod parking issue, and it's a long story. I don't want to
Okay.
belabor it, but, there are conflicting old maps of how wide that right-of-way should be. And so we're trying to nail that down and come up with potential geometric fixes to put in the capital budget. And then, once we figure out what the real right-of-way is, come up with a resolution for the parking issue out there. But it's kind of a longer,
Gotcha.
more involved process than we thought it would be.
Okay, but it's moving, it sounds like.
It is,
Yeah.
yep.
Thank you. Any other agenda items to add?
I have one, given the situation we just had at the beginning of the meeting with the 2-hour parking that's only right there for a couple spots and everything else around it is not 2-hour. Can we just get rid of the 2-hour? I mean, we've got it, David Ream parks his truck in the red zone 24/7, and we're not doing anything about that. And then let's just get rid of the 2-hour parking then, and this is no longer an issue if everybody else around there is not 2-hour.
So in other words, the council member saying that it's a special isolated.
It is the only special 3 spots.
Yeah.
So, I'll move to second Addison. Yeah.
Okay.
Bring it as an agenda item to discuss.
And it appears to be a conflict between two parties that needs to be resolved civilly or with a psychological counseling.
Both
Who knows?
sides have enjoyed yelling at each other to handle things right off the bat. So I know that the ladies were here saying that Derek and Lydia yell, but when I asked Derek and Lydia about it, they were yelled at as their first meeting and all of this. So naturally, Derek got his skin up that way, his blood up. So I'm not surprised if both parties started yelling at each other. As somebody who's gone through that with an idiot neighbor, it's not always the best thing. So.
I'd like to add to the agenda, a future agenda, the possibility of making one or more of those parking spots handicap spots, as the city manager suggested.
I second that too.
Yeah, but, I agree with it. You should have a general discussion as agenda item as to how to solve that block of parking spaces. But what did you folks say about where we don't determine if it's a handicapped spot? If it's a different party, different party?
There's so many handicap spaces that need to be provided. I don't know that off the top of my head. I don't know if that's something that Ken would have to look at as an engineer to say this many spaces are required or what the process is to make it into a handicap site.
Okay, so the third parties are not public works.
I don't think it's an issue. I designated a handicap space in Dunsmuir, and I forget the process I went through, but it was pretty simple, and it was just a matter of getting a stencil out there.
Or, is this going to be sort of an open agenda item as to what to do with these parking spaces? Third possibility is that we just limit, we put that sign in that says, from here to corner, that's the 1 or 2 hour parking limit. So basically, we need 2 spaces. Now, it's positioned in a way that it could be interpreted that way, that it's from the sign to the corner, so it's 2 parking spaces with 2 hour limit. But people that have been visiting think it's the whole side of the street.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, right, the other party doesn't think it's all the spot, so clarity might help too, as to where the 2 hour time limit exists. Still an enforcement issue, as we talked about, Chief.
Did you get all that, Kathy?
Any other future agenda items?
I'd just like to get this thing solved.
Yeah.
It's relatively trivial, and then the thing with the wood,
Well, seriously, it fell over, they picked it up. I mean, just instead of getting mad, help them out.
Any other?
So I would like some clarity as to the proposal.
go handicap.
So my proposal,
Agree to put that on for purpose of discussion.
So,
what I'm suggesting is that we just get rid of 2 hour parking and then,
add handicap.
and then possibly add a handicap spot if necessary, could be part of the discussion.
No, I think it should be. I think.
No, if we got to, I hear if one,
Eliminate the 2 hour,
make a handicap spot.
add 1 handicap.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the agenda.
all right.
Boom, boom, 2 steps. They like that idea a lot more than mine.
That's easy.
Okay. Any other agenda items? We are adjourned.